Good morning. Good morning. This is Coffee with Carol. And today we're talking part 4 of the DNA of an entrepreneur, which is connection. So we've talked about competence, we've talked about confidence, and we've talked a little bit about credibility. So now we're going to talk about those connections because making connections, building relationships, that's a really important part of being an entrepreneur. But the motivation behind building those relationships is the most important piece. Actually, good relationship builders have 3 main things that they're really good at. Number 1, they ask great questions. Number 2, they listen actively and intentionally to the other person. And number 3, they offer their services. They offer service, not to get something, but to help the other person first. That's what they're more interested in because that motivation behind your building relationships is so important. Are you more interested in what you can get from a relationship? Are you building the relationship with the intention of getting your need filled rather than serving their need? If no one ever knew what you were doing, would you still do it? If there was no visible payoff for what you were doing, would you still do it? Would you joyfully take a lesser role if it meant that you were being obedient to what God was calling you to do? If others were misunderstanding or criticizing your action, would you stop? If those that you are serving never ever show gratitude or repay you in any way, would you still do it? See, I don't think it's wrong for us to have expectations and want things for our business, but when you go into it with a selfish attitude, you end up losing instead of gaining. Matthew 23:11 says that the greatest of these, the greatest will be the servant. So going into things with a service mindset, with a what can I do for you instead of what can you do for me is important. And I think that the world has amazing networking and relationship building types of communities. BNI, your Chamber of Commerce, there's other types of social gatherings and social interactions. And all of these things can help you to build your business and build your relationships. But are you going to them to build your business, to get your need filled? Or are you going to see how can what I do serve the needs of others? See, that's a different type of attitude. That's a different type of motivation. When people feel that you have an ulterior motive, they're going to be less likely to build that connection with you. So if you're going into something with maybe I can build a relationship with this person because they know a lot of people and they will help me to get more out of my business, you probably are going to see yourself not making that connection. John Maxwell said that everything that's worthwhile is uphill, but you have uphill hopes and downhill habits. And that goes back to your competence, your confidence, and your credibility. What habits do you have in place? Are you in the habit of trying to get, or are you in the habit of giving? Getting ahead and putting others first is the process that you really, truly want to follow. First Peter 4:10 says, God has shown you his grace in many different ways. So be good servants and use whatever gift that he's giving you in a way that will best serve each other. So your gifts are there so that you can serve. Your gifts are there so that you can really make a difference in someone else's life. It's all about impact, not income. It's more about influence than it is about I status. Be willing to give without a focus on what you're going to get in return and watch God move. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, okay, what kinds of questions does one ask to really be focused on someone else? And how do I listen attentively? And what does this serving look like? So let me give you some ideas on that. If you're in a networking event, you could ask someone, what's the vision that you have for your business? What's the vision you have for your future? What changes are you looking to make within the next 6 months? What's one of your biggest challenges right now? If you're trying to build a relationship with someone on a more social level, you might ask things like, "Hey, tell me what your perfect day looks like." Or, "What do you do when you relax? What was your dream job when you were a kid?" Things like that. And then listen. You want to listen, right? You want to take notes whenever you're able to during a conversation, because that will keep you from interrupting and wanting to tell your story. Okay. Because your story is not that important unless it just confirms their story. If they're telling you something about something that happened to them and it makes you think of something that happened to you that was similar, you could just say, "Yeah, that happened to me that same way. Sounds like you're onto something," or sounds like that's a really good idea. You should move with that. So you maybe draw attention to your situation in a way that confirms them and affirms them, but then you move on. It's not about you, it's about them. When you're listening, you are restating what they say. Paraphrasing is really good. What if I heard you correctly, this is what you said. Or tell me a little bit more about that. Those are things that can really help. And it builds your credibility, guys. It builds the trustworthiness between you and the other person. Keep asking questions. The more you ask questions, the more you will build that relationship. And the more you will see where your business could possibly fill a need of theirs. So as they're talking, you might say, "Oh my gosh, would it be helpful if maybe we had a conversation about that? Because my business could potentially help you in that area." You focus on what you can give, not what you can get. Think always, how is this that I want to do, the decision that I'm going to make right now, how is this going to serve someone else? The more value that you add to an individual or an organization, the more value that you give, the more invaluable you become. So how can you add value? Give without thinking about what you're going to get. Focus on really making a difference, an impact in that other person's life or that organization's life. Focus on influence, not on what you're going to look like or what kind of title you're going to have. A while back, when I was having trouble doing videos and really talking to the public, God reminded me that it's not the messenger, it's the message. So stop worrying about yourself and focus on the message that you have to share with others. God does the how and you do the do. You can build great connections if you focus on what other people need instead of what you need. When you listen without thinking about your own situation, and when you really try to add value and make an impact on someone else's life. Make it a great day. God does the how, you do the do. Take care.